Thank you everybody for coming and joining us today. So just a quick introduction to what we're doing. So More Than a Label is a Mind HK campaign in partnership with Mindset. And this campaign has really kind of stemmed out of our goal of changing and influencing the way the public perceives mental health and individuals who experience diagnoses of mental health conditions. Our project is funded by Jardines Matheson's, and this campaign encourages the public to look beyond the typical stigmatizing labels that are really associated with mental health diagnoses, and have real conversations about mental health. So our campaign is really targeted at our local community here in Hong Kong and hopefully beyond. And what we try to present is personal stories of mental health journeys that we want to showcase realistic portrayals of people who have faced mental health problems in the past and have recovered, and understanding their journey as a holistic identity and not just, their mental health label. We hope that this will help facilitate a more honest conversation in Hong Kong. We know that Hong Kong has been going through a really difficult time as of late because of the COVID-19 pandemic, and particularly this fifth wave that has really impacted us all. And what we want to do is really create safe spaces for people to talk about their mental health and how it has impacted their lives. So without further ado, a couple of things. We are recording this session, so just as a notice for everybody. And we'll get started. So today we have 3 individuals who are our latest batch of ambassadors who were trained. And we're going to have a bit of a conversation about the pandemic. All of us have been really stressed, and I think this has really impacted the whole city's mental health state. So I think it's really important to just talk about like how we're all doing, and kind of share ideas of how we've been coping with the stressors of this latest pandemic. Myself, I'm one of the Mind Hong Kong, or I'm the clinical lead for the anti-stigma campaign, but I've been with Mind Hong Kong since its inception, and I'm also play a role as a trainer. So I'm Odile. I will be the moderator for today's discussion. And I will actually let our ambassadors introduce themselves, starting with Bea. So Bea, can you get us started? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
So hi, I'm Bea. Nice to meet those tuning in today. I'm a psychology graduate, a soon-to-be counselling student, English teacher, and project coordinator in my main job. And as a mental health advocate, I work on wellbeing initiatives in my organization. My passion for this area, and one of the reasons I'm here today to try and help others, has been my own recovery journey with mental health. Around 6 years ago, I was proudly able to say I recovered from an eating disorder, something that affected me every single day for 5 years, and 5 years on and off after that. As I'm 31 now, that's a third of my life experiencing fluctuating mental health, which is significant. However, I'm really pleased to say my treatment and professional support was successful, and I haven't relapsed in terms of that since. That said, eating disorders are quite complex, often involve comorbidity, which means that people can get symptoms that overlap with other conditions. Because of some traumatic personal events I've experienced and witnessed throughout mine and others' lives, I've also had to overcome different types of anxiety on a number of occasions due to that trauma having long-lasting effects. This included social and performance anxiety, which tends to be short-lived for me, as well as minor periods of acute and generalized anxiety related to stress buildup, burnout, or hypochondria, which is anxiety about health. So this was particularly relevant to me during the start of COVID-19, and I had to be mindful of this throughout all different waves. But I'm happy to be here to share with you some of what has helped me. Thank you.
Amazing. Thanks, Dee. And now, Claudia, to you, if you can introduce yourself to our audience.
Hi, I'm Claudia, and so I guess starting with my relationship with mental health would be like I have layers of trauma starting from a young age, and unknowingly, like my nervous system has adapted to survive and live within the traumatic environment that I felt unsafe in, that I wasn't aware of. And then there were a lot of signs of my mental health that went unnoticed and ignored and masked by myself and my surroundings that included. And when I in university, there was another traumatic event relating to sexual assault, and then that kind of started like really deteriorating, like all the high functioning skills I managed to be able to muster up in the past, and I sought help professionally, and it was a really long journey full of ups and downs. And I think the most important part, or the pivotal point in changing this roller coaster of like, was accepting that the fact that like it's going to be like up and downs, and it's about managing and coping instead of striving to be normal or striving to be what other expects of me, and that it's okay to take it at my own pace. And yes, totally agree with what B said. Like it's definitely comorbidity of like, which oftentimes it can manifest in many different symptoms, including eating disorders, depression, anxiety, even physical symptoms like tics and like stuttering and stuff. Yeah, so I think it was able to recognize my resilience and appreciate the fact that my nervous system did all this to help me survive, and forgiving myself for everything.
Great. Thank you very much, Claudia. And now to you, Lorna. And I think if you're talking, you're on mute.
Excited.
Oh,
sorry for
you
that.
got it. Really
Yeah.
excited. Yes, go ahead.
So yeah, I Lorna from the Philippines, working here in Hong Kong. I became fascinated with the issue of mental health during my hospital duties, because back in my country, I'm a registered nurse. And so when during those duties and the mental health, it's just that it's my dream to take a personal like specialization on that area. And because I myself suffered the mental issues back then, that I can say it's a difficult journey. And I'm happy that among others with here, I survived. Initially, I didn't believe that the doctors say I have manic depression that escalate into borderline, then became to dissociative personality. Because back then, it's not it's not yet very clear about mental diseases or mental illness as what they call back in our time. So I don't initially at first when they told me, I don't believe it, because for me, I'm perfectly fine, but I wasn't, as they said. So it was only when I accepted that there was something different with me that my journey began, and I'm happy for that. That's why I'm also here to give a bit of sharing my experience, hoping that or maybe someone out there will relate of what I've been through.
Perfect. Thank you, Lorna. And Lorna, I'm going to start with you actually. Um, since we have you on there, how has the pandemic and all the different restrictions that we've been under, particularly lately, how has that impacted your day-to-day life and your mental health?
Oh, yeah. Maybe I'm not the only one who experience or who have this, because the previous years of the restrictions are still bearable for me. At first, I felt like uncomfortable but manageable still. For my point of view, although this, particularly this, what we call fifth wave, what they said, it's very alarming already. And it's just like, it's a reminder for a proper care until this time. So it changes a lot. It's the highest elaboration that I can say is that it seems like I'm living in a mountain. The daily routine changes, like shopping of food. That's supposed to be every day, because we like to get fresh vegetables and fruits every day from the market. But then it became like once a week or once in 10 days, something like that. Mostly the sanitation, the cleaning, disinfecting became already often. And it's not that already it's became like what a necessity, but it becomes already a habit of ours in the house, in the household, and especially for me. And well, some of us also, or most of us also feel this. It's just like already there's a paranoia. That's why we're very careful about it already, because the weekly schedules of me, because supposed to be it's a weekend, is a very busy day for me, for my community events, for my charity activities, and those are also weekly seminars, workshops are all on hold. And yeah, no more gatherings, seminars, something like that. And the thing is, I get to know I get to use in my own advantage the power of technology, like what we are doing now. So, but I have to accept also that no more those empathetic hugs or the pat on our shoulder sometimes, that, oh, very good, job well done, or yeah, let's go, hang in there,
Definitely.
something like, yeah.
Definitely,
Whenever
that's
I'm
been
out,
hard.
yeah, it is. We all know, as a social being, we all need that touch. What's a sense of touch? So there's question always on my mind that, am I still safe? Until when? And what if? There's so many what if.
Thank you. Definitely, there are lots of what ifs during this time. Claudia, have you noticed, have some of your activities that you rely on, have those been canceled?
Yeah, like the majority of my routine, like weekly stuff, has all been canceled. And they're not really viable online. So there's a huge gap now in my life that used to be there. I've been like, in terms of also like how like that has the invisible kind of stressors it created, was also like within the relationships dynamics, like in my current family situation. I think sometimes space is a lot more, it's great to have when it comes to these kind of things, because there's no personal safe space for myself sometimes, and that can be very alarming to my nervous system.
Mhm.
Whereas at times where I was able to go outside, like there's also that paranoia of like, I shouldn't go outside. Like it's like a guilt. Like I shouldn't go outside. There's a social responsibility that I have in my mind. Like I don't want to. If I expose myself, I don't know who I'm exposing myself to as well. And that also made it a lot easier for me to just kind of pull myself out in my room or like, and although that's not the best for my mental health, like I have been using other strategies to cope with that. Especially trying to build like a routine within this space that I'm stuck in now.
Yeah, definitely. And we'll just hold on to that because we will talk about how do we shift our strategies. And B, how have you been finding sort of this shift in our routines and shift in activities that we're used to during this fifth wave?
Well, I really resonate with what Lorna said, like, you know, you like keeping very busy. And for me, keeping socially busy is a big part of how I manage my mental health, as well as being physically active. You know, before the restrictions, I could go to the gym like 2 or 3 times a week. I could walk to and from the office, but now we've got way more sitting and screen time. Definitely my shape has changed. I'm sure a lot of us like feel this way. And then in terms of social life as well, you can't go out to see friends like we used to. Or other things that I did, like hiking with no mask, going to museums, or like some self-care stuff like spa treatments, vacations, things that like would manage my mental health in that way. So it's like it's kind of like what Claudia said, you've had to find new ways of dealing with it, setting up a new routine, finding other ways of coping. And definitely I feel for people like me, we haven't seen our family in so long. And so I think traveling has been one of the hardest things about COVID-19. So many of us haven't seen our family for over 2 years. And I used to see my parents twice a year, every year since I've been here. So that's been probably the hardest thing. In general, it's kind of added up to feeling more isolated and bored than usual, or like what we call COVID fatigue. I think we all know that feeling now.
Yeah, for sure. And so keeping on, kind of reevaluating and rethinking some of our coping strategies, what have you found helpful for yourself around how have you reimagined your coping strategies?
Well, I found it more helpful to focus on the things I can do for myself rather than what I can't, because it puts a sense of control inside of me, not outside of me. So as I mentioned, like staying active is a non-negotiable for me. I really miss the gym, hiking, and so on. But at home, I've bought lots of different exercise equipment that I can use. I have 2 sets of weights. I bought another one because one wasn't enough. I've got a Swiss ball, resistance bands, yoga mat. So I do work out at home when I feel up to it. But I've also been doing online yoga pretty much every week for 2 years with my favorite teacher, just as a Monday morning routine. It kind of gets my week started off on a good note. And I know not everyone feels comfortable going out, but for me, I do try to get out for walks if I can. Like I aim for about 10,000 steps a day on average. Some days more, some days it's less, because I do find just getting sunlight, feeling the breeze, or just getting fresh air, like together with movement, with some music as well, it just really helps clear my head when I feel overwhelmed. It's like my guaranteed way of feeling better. Yeah.
Awesome. And Claudia, you started talking about this. So how have you kind of reimagined some of your coping strategies or your routines during this 5th wave?
So I agree with you. Like exercise is definitely a really great way to regulate your the hormones in your body and also your mood. So for me, I've been actually going on just like going on YouTube and looking at following like dance, like really easy dance videos, kind of like Zumba, because I mean I definitely don't have the skills to do some of those really slick ones, but it's just to get your body moving and get the endorphin pumping, and that's always been great to also help regulate your sleep. Another thing that I do also mix in was like with some kind of high intensity interval training videos here and there if I'm feeling the energy enough for it. I've also been kind of immersing myself more into like doing chores mindfully, like kind of that also helps ground me a lot. Like practicing mindfulness, like when I'm like doing washing vegetables or like cooking and like doing laundry and stuff like that really helps me feel like a structure and accomplishment in my daily life as well. And I guess it's also about learning to keep boundaries if you're like trapped in your own the people you're living with, like being able to assert like for yourself and advocate for yourself, like when you want to interact and when you don't want to interact, stuff like that. I think it's important to check in with yourself a lot of times, like always ask yourself, like always prioritize yourself in terms of like well-being and safety.
Great, thank you. And Lorna, how about you? How have you reimagined some of your coping strategies and your routines?
Yeah, well, it resonates also both of my co-ambassador here. That well, it's just like all of us are an outside person because yeah, we always go hiking supposedly before, and having like when you are going hiking and then you're expecting already a good meal at the end of the hike. So together with our dogs, going kayaking and going clean up, something like that. It's both my the feeling of worthiness sometimes in us. So contribute that that you contribute to the nature, you contribute also to yourself and to the environment. But yeah, it's already like a when you go out and do all those coping strategies that we usually do, there's a kind of should I or shouldn't I. So just like B, I also have my boss also got the exercise machine inside the house, so we join, and I also joined yoga, Zumba, like what's this online, all our online workshops, and that is also in line with my interest, like those just like rights for my co-domestic workers, and also those I also joined those meditations apart from I'm doing it myself, and it's because I can no longer go to the hospital also for my once a week physiotherapy and my chiropractor. So I'm doing it already inside this room, what we call the requirement room, because we do the yoga here, we do the exercise here. So it's a kind of all we can still do what we are doing outside before. The only thing is we are no longer by group, or we are no longer doing with our friends because of the restrictions. So we cannot even invite friends inside the house already now. For me, every weekend, whenever our workshop are finished, my co-ambassadors of Pathfinders or whatsoever group that I am into, I am inviting them to be here and do some cooking skills, something like that, so to express or express those stress inside their workplace. But now we can do it. But the thing is, it's a good thing also that, like Claudia says, we have to love ourselves and put that in mind that we are important too, and we have a need to satisfy. And also, what I like, the one she said, is about we know our limitations, our boundaries. So for me, as something that so many are messaging me about what's happening on our compatriots. But the thing, sometimes we absorb those things, that those stress, anxiety, and their depression, sometimes we absorb. And so there's the kind of thermostat for me, that if I can no longer do things, or I have already into my limit, I can say that, oops, maybe time to cool down first or back up, because we cannot do, we cannot give what we don't have. So always have a priority of yourself and know our capabilities, so that we can help instead that are ruining our own strategies sometimes. So
Great, thank you. And so kind of using that thread, be thinking about people around us who might be struggling. I think we all have friends and family that we've talked to who are having a really rough time with this current wave. How have you been able to support the people around you during this time?
yeah, I must admit that it's a very difficult to reach out as well as them. What we know, or we all know that it's very difficult also to reach out, especially some of us. Sometimes we don't want to accept that there's something wrong with us. When we are asking somebody that, how are you doing? I'm fine, I'm good. But the thing is, for what I'm doing now, whatever it is difficult, I will find a way. Just what I've said a while ago, like my members and my compatriots are all messaging me about because they're staying at home and they're not allowed to go out as usual. So all the stress they are all absorbing, and then they are all packing, knowing also that the space here in Hong Kong is very small. So you always bump into each other in your family. So for them, I just try myself to to assure them that I am here whenever they need someone, and I make it to the point that whatever you tell me, it's between you and me. I want to assure them that whatever they will tell me, whatever matters that they will brought out or talk about, I will make it sure that it's between us. And sometimes we're joking about for the Filipino community that don't be so marites. They already have a meaning on some names just because of being locked inside inside the house. So they're making already. It's good for them that they're making a funny way to learn. And also I'm encouraging them to, just like what Claudia a while ago says, or B a while ago says, that try to concentrate on what they control rather than the outside one. I also shared to them about the well-being that I've learned, that try to do kindness once a day, or gratitude once a day. So a thing that you will do, a simple thing that you will do, and then afterward I will ask them, how do you feel? So it's good also sharing.
Yeah, great idea. Thank you, Lorna. How about you, V? How have you been able to support your community and people around you during this time?
Well, definitely some people don't feel comfortable going out as much. But that said, you can still voice message, voice call, video call to keep in touch. And I think kind of like what other people said, it's about being protective of your energy. So for me, that really comes down to limiting the news, and that it also means limiting sharing news with others as well, because I find we tend to all get sucked in the hype of that, and that can add a lot of anxiety and paranoia. So I tend not to share too much news if I can, and also kind of encourage other people not to do the same. Instead, I will try and share more like motivating or uplifting content and positive content. And I try to apply that in my work as well. You know, at the start of my classes, I always check in with students. I really try to get them to focus on something they're grateful for, something positive that happened that week. Because I think people feed off that positive energy. And I think our minds naturally will go to focus on negative things. So I think it's about helping others to sort of switch their mindset. And, you know, some of them are like, oh, well, it's just the same, it's boring, there's nothing. And I'm like, okay, we'll try. How about this? How about that? And then with prompting, actually, they can find positive things. So I think I think that's a really helpful thing to do. And as well, I find me being open, like some people might think I'm too open, but I think me being open encourages other people to be open about mental health as well. And I think people just want to be heard. People just want a safe space to talk. And yeah, that's what I try to provide for my friends and for my students and people I know.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And how about you, Claudia? How have you been supporting the people around you?
My advice would be friends, like if only they're comfortable. Like I know a lot of people, or and me myself, like when struggling, it's the hardest to reach out to others. And so like actually keeping tabs on like just checking up on them regularly, even if you don't get a response, like just to let them know like I'm thinking of you and sending well wishes to you. And when they're comfortable with like actually responding, like kind of saying like thank you for taking time to actually like talk to reach out back. And if they're comfortable with like video calling, then I think that's a really great way to have social support. And when that happens, I think it's important to, like as Bia said, like not talk about like the negatives, not focusing on the negatives. Actually rather encouraging them or encouraging bonding. So like really activities you can do online. So like just like, oh, let's both do like a 5-minute workout video together, like just to get like to motivate them to like do some starting taking care of themselves in a different way. Or like let's have a book club, like just between two of us, let's read a chapter a week, and then next week let's call and like have talk about it. I think these kind of small stuff like will eventually build a momentum within people and have to like they'll start to kind of, I guess, find interest and motivation in doing things that they enjoy, or in exploring, allowing themselves to explore their own interests. I think that is something that's helpful. And also I think if it's like internally, like if you're struggling, you don't feel comfortable reaching out to others, I think starting a so something that helped me out was like the 5-minute journal. This basically is a gratitude and appreciation journal, and it takes 5 minutes, and it just basically retrains your mind to not hold on to the tough parts or difficult parts in your life, but like accepting it and learning to appreciate this little small stuff that does brighten up your day. And I think it's also important to know, like, if you're okay, like checking in with yourself is just as important as checking in with others. Like you can't support if you're yourself are not in a good place as well. But it's also important to establish that kind of communication with the friend, like we're both here for each other. Like just as I'm here to listen to you, and like let's encourage you to encourage each other to like do activities together. It's vitally important for that kind of reciprocity, even if it's not like in exactly the same balance, but like it's like knowing that you have your own support system out there as well, and being able to reach out to them if that's also important.
Great, thank you very much, Claudia. And B, I guess like as our kind of little wrap up, if you could tell us what is something that you would tell someone who is struggling with their mental health right now, if you got to kind of send a message to somebody who's struggling, what would you say?
I think like the others have said, like really prioritize yourself during this time and try and have a range of activities that you can fall back on, because like Claudia said, you know, journaling is great. I've got 3 types of journals. Been trying to like read short poems, write haiku during this time, doing art for wellness activities, which I really recommend for anxiety and trauma, or like trying to find out things that you can do at home. And you know, what might work on one occasion may not help on another. So it's good to experiment and just have a range of things to fall back on. And kind of establishing a routine, as we've mentioned before, because for me, self-care is not just preventative. It's preventative, not just curative. So it's about having that in place to fall back on, not just when you're feeling low. It just helps you bounce back from it better when you know that there's something you can do. I would also say it's like very normal to be experiencing these emotions that you may be experiencing. Like the world hasn't gone through something like this before. So things might be new, it might be stressful, it could be up and down, it could be down all the time. I think everything is understandable. And, you know, I think it's helpful not to blame yourself, because it's a bit like adding another problem on top. So for me, it's just about finding ways to manage those feelings when they come about, in the same way, you know, we take medicine when we get physically sick. So just trying to be like flexible in what you can do. And yeah, I would say, yeah, don't give up. Like it's definitely possible to become more resilient. It's all a process. And what we learn now on how to deal with our mental health, that's going to help us all throughout life. And yeah, so just, I would say, like, be patient, keep trying, like be gentle and compassionate to yourself. And remember, like, recovery and feeling better is possible. Like feelings are just temporary. It's just about finding a way to manage it better. And yeah, we all did. So yeah, it's definitely possible.
Great, thank you. And Lorna, how about you? If you had to say something to somebody who's struggling right now, what would you say to them?
Yeah, just like what I'm telling to those, when I'm practicing my PFA to my members, I'm telling them that we might be in the same situation as we are all in a COVID-19 with this atmosphere, but then each of us have a different perception or interpretation of struggles, and also as likewise coping mechanisms. So there are many uncertainties around us, or that is happening, and as Dee also says, that we cannot control them. But I just want to tell everyone, just like I'm telling them, that you are not alone. You are not alone. And reach out. We are here for you.
Perfect. That's a lovely message. Thank you, Lorna. And Claudia, how about you? What would you say to someone who's struggling at the moment?
I would say, like, just as like listen to yourself. Like this is how you would listen to your friend that you want to support and validate and acknowledge their feelings. Like do that for yourself first as well. Like being self-compassion, practicing self-compassion, like, and being able to support your own mental health, like establishing those tools for that and practicing them. I also think like the biggest message that I want to send out is, I think, like, establish what normal is for yourself, define that for yourself, and not have others define that for you. And being able to appreciate the small things about yourself, like learning to look at yourself in a different light. I think that's important, and that knowing that this journey of mental health is not straightforward. It's not a straight line, like linear up. There's sometimes it's going to take like 2 steps back, 1 step forward, and that's totally fine, because it doesn't matter how many steps you take forward. It just matters that you're moving your feet at all. I think it doesn't matter, like it's not about reaching that light at the end of the tunnel. It's just about lighting up that tunnel yourself and making that light, you know.
Yeah, I really like that. And you know what I really like is the fact that a lot of times we talk about the vulnerabilities of individuals who have struggled with their mental health in the past. But I think you guys have all demonstrated the incredible amount of resilience that you guys have, and the arsenal that you've built around, you know, how to cope with these difficulties, you know, way before COVID-19. So now you guys have like your bag of tricks with you. That is an incredible source of resilience for you guys. And definitely, I think all of those messages that you've had to our audience who may be struggling is, you know, really kind of taking care of yourself, prioritizing yourself, seeking help, knowing that you're not alone, and seeking help is so incredibly important. And, you know, I would recommend for people to seek out help, whether it is informal, so through your social networks, or seeking help through kind of more formal channels. So reaching out to a mental health professional if you feel like that's needed for you. So thank you very much for all three of you guys. And we're going to open up the floor for questions from the audience. So if anybody has a question from the audience, please feel free to throw it into the chat box. We'll be happy to answer your questions. And while we're waiting for those questions, I'm going to go around and ask you guys, what is one positive or fun thing that you guys are going to do today? I'll start with B.
Well, because you've asked me and I'm like, I'm working later, but I had a fun thing this morning. So I did do a really good workout this morning. So it's kind of set my mood right for the day. So that's already out the way. So yeah, but today I've got some work to do. So yeah.
Oh, fantastic.
I like my job, but yeah, it's work.
Yes, even if you like your job, sometimes, yeah, it's still not like, you know, it's not self-care. So glad you got that morning workout. How about you, Lorna?
Well, as usual, walking with my dogs. Well, we changed the routine today, this morning, because supposed to be this time we are still on our way back. But it suits because it's the sun is out and it's very hot. So we went out early, really early. And the thing is, we came back, they're being they're muddy. So all of them jumped into the shower first and then got to get ready for this Zoom of ours.
Great. And what about you, Claudia? Something fun that you're going to do today?
I actually find it really fun to read about. I like to read about like mental health stuff. So that's actually something that helps me like gain the tools that I need to support myself as well. And it's actually very empowering. I feel like to learn. So like the one that I'm reading right now is called Transforming the Living Legacy of Trauma. And that really helped, like, it's empowering to know and view yourself and view what has happened to you and validate what has happened to you as in a very different way, in a very clinical way. And that instead of like internalizing all these things, because I think a lot of times when you don't have this knowledge, you blame yourself like for these things that you feel are out of your control when everyone thinks that it is within your control or assumes that it is within your control. So my fun thing is to read about these things and, you know, learn that it's okay. Like this is the way that my body adapted to survive, and that in itself is a powerful thing.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong on it. Yeah, there's nothing wrong for it.
Perfect. So we do have a question, and I'm going to throw this one to you, B. And then I'll also give a little bit of a clinician's perspective on this question. Can you elaborate on supporting friends with mental health problems? So this person says, I feel like I'm always walking on glass. I really don't want to invalidate them. So what are your thoughts on that, B?
I think it's been a learning experience for me. One thing I found that has been helpful is just like validating their experiences in terms of the phrases you use. So like, oh, like that sounds frustrating. Like I understand that must be hard for you, or kind of asking questions to let them open up and give their point of view. What I found wasn't helpful was when I kind of like gave too much of my opinion or too much of advice in a way, because we don't know what helps them necessarily, and we don't know. And you know, you talked about walking on glass, like some people find like fixing a little bit of a trigger, like they just want to be like heard, because sometimes fixing can feel like you shouldn't be feeling this way. Here's what to do. It's like, it's kind of like, oh, maybe you go see a doctor and then you're feeling low and they're just like, oh, here's a pill, like here's an antidepressant. It can feel maybe this way, like, so just letting them talk, like giving them that safe space and just like trying to be empathetic, and then like, yeah, trying to let them open up through asking questions and just saying like, yeah, I understand. That must be really difficult. That sounds really stressful. That must have been scary. Things like that.
Perfect. Yeah, that's a fantastic answer. So definitely validating how the person is feeling and trying to empathize with them. I think one of the most important things to do is come from a non-judgmental perspective and meet people where they're at. And sometimes it can be difficult for us if we're not struggling with a mental health problem, or if we haven't struggled with a mental health problem and we just don't know sort of what that feels like. Sometimes it might be hard for us to say like, well, why are you thinking this way? Or why are you feeling this way? So trying to kind of wash that over and try to just be with them in that moment from an empathetic perspective, not a sympathetic perspective, because nobody wants your sympathy. Everybody wants your empathy. And I'm going to put a plug. I'm not being paid by Brene Brown. I haven't even read her books actually, but Brene Brown has a fantastic video. You can look it up on YouTube, just put Brene Brown empathy, and it's a fantastic video to show the difference. What is the difference between empathy and sympathy? And I think that's a really, really important approach when you're supporting someone. The other thing is, like Faye said, I will just echo what she said. A lot of times, particularly if we're doing well, we try to jump to the fix and like, this is how you can fix this, or this is, and when somebody's opening up to you, it's not about fixing. They want to talk to you because they want to be heard and they want to be listened to. So like they said, create that safe space for them. The fixing piece, they can do that in therapy. They can do that with a professional. You're there to be there to create that safe space for them. For those of you in the audience, if you really want to learn more about how to support somebody who is struggling with their mental health and having those difficult conversations, mental health first aid is a fantastic course to take. It's just like physical first aid, but it's for mental health. I'll put a shameless plug for us at Mind. We do run mental health first aid, but you can actually do this training from around different organizations within Hong Kong. So I would really recommend that. So just going through some of the questions, we do have resources for teen, so please check out Cool Minds. I'm the clinical advisor for that project as well. And we're putting out quite a few things for around COVID and just general mental health. So we do have some great resources there. So check out Cool Minds. If we have any events coming up, I can't think of any of at the top of my head. We're doing quite a lot of work with schools specifically. So if you want to reach out to us and try to get your school involved, then please do so. You can check out our contact info on Cool Minds. So that's a really great one for teenagers. Let me just go through. We're getting lots. Oh, great, thank you. So my colleague just put in the link to the Brene Brown. Thank you very much. And I think that's it. Yeah. So thank you everybody for joining us today. If you check out the chat box, we have a bunch of resources that we've kind of feverishly put together over the past couple of weeks around mental health and COVID. We have a really, really good self-help workbook that you guys can try out and work through. And there are a few resources all in there. So it's all in the chat box for you guys. And please do check out our More Than a Label HK campaign. We're on Instagram. We also have our own website that you can check out, and you can see our ambassadors' different stories. And the other place where you can check us out is in Bookazine. We actually came up with a book of stories from our ambassadors, as well as some of our supporters from around the community. So please check us out, More Than a Label, and you'll see all of these ladies featured there, along with the rest of our ambassadors. And we will have another ambassador training session, like program, coming up in May. So stay tuned to that. Thank you very much, everybody, for coming and participating. Thank you, Bea, Lorna, and Claudia for coming and sharing your stories. I think it was really impactful for me to hear, and I'm sure for the audience as well. So thank you very much. Bye, guys.
Thank you all.
Thank
you,
you.
Erica, and to my members who are here. A fun thing to do is to ask them about what they knew about me today. It's their first time to know that I'm here.
I'm glad you're
Fun
advertising
thing.
for us. Good job.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thanks.